Disclaimer, I did already have a blackberry mojito this afternoon, and now I have moved on to pineapple flavored wine. With that, let's discuss consumerism. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Tales and Tomes with Amy. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can hear the latest of all my bookish content. So today we're going to be discussing a topic that's been pretty hot in the Booktube community for well over a year, and that is consumerism. I've been wanting to do this video for quite a while now, ever since I started my Booktube channel, because I find the subject fascinating. And I scoured all over Booktube trying to find a very specific consumerism tag. So far, I have not found it. The closest one I found was the bougie Booktuber tag that was originally created by Olive, and I did actually do that tag. I'll link it in the description box. But I wanted to go a little beyond that, just to give my 2 cents about the conversation of, Booktube consumerism. And if there is already an official consumerism tag, I apologize. I claim ignorance. I'm just a noob here in Booktube. So I decided to devise my own questions so that anyone else is free to do this tag as well if you are interested in this topic. So, question number 1. Do you believe that consumerism is a problem in the Booktube community? My personal opinion is I don't think it's necessarily specific within the Booktube community or the YouTube community in general. I think consumerism is just a question that everyone is talking about. Particularly, it's human nature to think about what we have in comparison to what others have. Like that's like an evolutionary biological drive, where back when we were cavemen, we had to analyze where we sat in the social hierarchy, because where we were in the social hierarchy in the tribe directly impacted how much access we had to finite resources. So that is, I think, an inevitable part of human nature that I don't think we're ever fully going to lose, no matter how far our civilization advances. But I think, if anything, if it's not going to go away, I think social media and YouTube has made it significantly worse, because now people are broadcasting the absolute best 10% of their lives, and we're constantly comparing each other to that ideal. So no, I don't think it's a specific issue with Booktube. I think that's just a wider issue, and Booktube is just one niche where that sort of social comparison is relevant and prevalent. Like for me personally, like seeing a Booktuber on YouTube and talking about books and seeing their huge bookshelf, and feeling jealous of them, like I don't consider that any different than if I went over to a friend's house for dinner and got like jealous of the fancy library that they had. And just disclaimer, by the way, none of these books are mine. These are all my husband's. All deep philosophical tomes, everyone from Machiavelli to Rousseau, Hobbes, everyone except Voltaire. My husband doesn't like Voltaire for some reason, I forget why. Anyway, so yeah, I don't think consumerism is a specific problem within Booktube. Booktube is just another facet of that wider societal phenomenon. Question number 2. Do you think Booktubers with large audiences have a social responsibility to address consumerism? Well, I wouldn't want to say that they have a duty or a responsibility to talk about consumerism. I would encourage it, just because, again, there are so many different ways to consume books. Again, we're all on the various spectrums, from buying all the books to just using the library, and a lot of us are in the middle. I encourage the conversation to be had just so that people can see that there are a variety of different ways to consume books, and no one way is the right way. So I would encourage Booktubers, both large and small, to discuss these topics so that people of a specific school of thought within the spectrum can have some sense of camaraderie. I wouldn't want any Booktuber, large or small, to have to feel forced or coerced into defending themselves about their consumerism habits of books because some troll online is accusing them of being wasteful or anything. I don't think any Booktuber should have to answer to a troll like that, because at the end of the day, it's none of their business what that one person does with their money. Question number 3. What are your thoughts on Booktubers, or anyone for that matter, hoarding and or unhauling vast amounts of books that they haven't read. So this is definitely one aspect of Booktube consumerism that I've heard people criticize other booktubers about, and like with all the massive unhauling videos and things like that. My personal position is, again, it's their money. It's not my place to say what they can and cannot do with their money and with their possessions. And if I'm feeling jealous about the way they can frivolously get rid of books, that is all about me, and that has nothing to do with them, and I shouldn't be projecting whatever negative feelings I have onto them because of that. But at the same time, so I'm thinking of unhauling books. For people unhauling a lot of books, I don't think necessarily that's a bad thing, as long as the books are not getting destroyed or like burned, like as long as the books are passing hands. And if people are unhauling books, that means they'll be they're used and they'll be sold or given away at a discounted price, and so therefore they'll be accessible to more people. And then in regards to hoarding, would that bother me? Again, I look at hoarding as, if someone is hoarding books, that doesn't have an impact on me. For example, if there's this one book that is sitting on some booktuber's shelf and they're not doing anything with it, that does not in any way impact my ability to go out and order that book on Amazon or check it out from the library or buy it from a used bookseller. Like, the fact that that book is sitting in their library does not in any way have an effect on the potentiality of me getting that book for myself. So in that way, I don't care about how many books people hoard, whether they're reading them or whether they're not. The only way that I would be offended by people hoarding books would be if the coronavirus wiped us all out, if the wildfires in the West Coast spread all over North America, if society as we know it crumbles to ashes, and we're in a dystopian society, and suddenly there's no one publishing books anymore. Under those circumstances where now there's a finite amount of books, if someone is hoarding books and you can't easily get those books anymore, then yeah, I would have a problem with that. And again, in that dystopian world, I would definitely be that post-apocalyptic mafia boss librarian knocking at your door saying, you better be sharing that Court of Thorns and Roses with the rest of us. Question number 4. Give an approximate percentage of how many books you buy versus borrow from the library. So I would say I am on the side of the spectrum, the school of thought that definitely loves to collect books, but also just the realization I cannot buy all the books that I would want. So I would say that of all the books that I read, 70% of them I purchase and 30% of them I check out from the library. And it's skewed so high that way because so often I will check out a book from a library just to see if I like it. And if I really, really like it and it's something I know I would want to reread, then I will go and buy it at a later date. So when it comes to actual, like in real time, when I'm reading books, it's more 60% bought and 40% checked out from the library. And then the ratio of buying books raises because I'm purchasing books from the past that I know I already like. Question number 5. Do you think you are buying more books or borrowing more books as you get older? What do you think is fueling this personal trend? I would definitely say I am borrowing books significantly more from the library because just maintaining a Booktube channel, like I could not purchase all the books that I would want to go over to stay relevant within the community. So definitely because of that, I am borrowing books significantly more. And because in the past, I used to just content myself with the use of my university library, where I'm an employee and I have access to all the libraries. But in light of starting Booktube, I have also checked out a subscription for the public library. And then through the public library, I have been given access to the online, like sort of library-esque resource of Hoopla. So with all of those, yeah, I'm definitely borrowing more books just because I'm reading a hell of a lot more. And that's just not specifically with Booktube. That certainly is a large factor, but a big part, even if the Booktube channel did not exist, I'm just reading so much more because it's, the pandemic and it's, we're all in quarantine. I'm working from home. We have a mask mandate in Indiana. What we can do outside is limited. So beyond hiking in the lake country with my husband, reading is basically my primary, extracurricular activity. Question number 6. If you had access to unlimited funds and shelf space, would you buy all the books that you read? Yes, I would, because I am no problem admitting that I'm on the collector side of the school of thought. And if I had unlimited funds that could only be applied towards books and shelf space, then yes, I would buy all the books. And certainly if I was buying all the books, even if I didn't like love them, I would unhaul them, but I would make sure that they went to a very good home where people would get use out of them. Question number 7. If your local library had all the books you wanted and you didn't have to wait for any titles, would you borrow all the books that you read? So again, on the opposite side of the spectrum, I would have to say no, but definitely the fact that I have to wait, for books to arrive at the library, that definitely has an impact on how many books I purchase, because I'm just not a very patient person. And so when I want a book, I just want it now. And for the most part, I can get most books what I want, even with just using the university library. But again, quarantine, I'm reading more, my university library isn't just cutting it anymore. And so I'm now using the public library, and some of the popular YA fantasies, there are holds on them, and I have to wait so many weeks, and I'm just not into that. Like when I want to plan out my reading schedule, and so when I want a book, I want it now. Question number 8. Beyond Booktube, give an example of a time where you were jealous of someone else's library, specific books, special editions, or any other bookish possession that you felt you could not have. So beyond all the Booktube examples, I think a time where I was really jealous of someone's book collection was, I think, kind of what I mentioned in a previous question as a general example. My husband and I went to a dinner party that was thrown by one of his professors. And so we went there, and just, this professor had tenure. He was just very well established in life. And I remember just seeing the beautiful bookcases, and just anytime I see really fancy bookcases, I get really jealous, because I would so desperately want those very ornate Baroque style bookcases to honor my books, because I love them so much. But they're just so expensive. I was just today at Menards looking at prices of boards and brackets, and trying to think of what's the cheapest way that I can be able to create my little DIY floating bookcases project. How can I make sure it stays under $200? So I think for me, it's not so much about books, but I get really jealous of bookshelves specifically. So yeah, those are all my questions for my very own Booktube Consumerism Tag. Don't forget to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about consumerism. What are your opinions, and have your opinions specifically changed during the coronavirus pandemic? Because in some ways you can save on expenses by working remotely, but at the same time, just the pandemic is affecting so many people in so many different ways, and what one expense might have been lowered because of the pandemic, like, gas and travel, another expense may increase dramatically because of the pandemic. So has that had an impact on how you consume books as well? I'm just really curious to hear about it, because I just, when I first got into the consumerism conversation, I was just really shocked that, people felt they had to defend themselves for how they consumed books. And that was just very peculiar to me, because even though, of course, books are a type of consumerism, I always put books on this holy pedestal where it doesn't matter that you're hoarding books. That doesn't have a negative impact or is a part of materialism, because I always think of books as being so intellectual and of a higher mind, and therefore buying books are just beyond reproach. There's no way you can criticize that. But the reality is that it is a type of materialism, as much as I personally think that it's materialism that is justified for the intellectual growth that it provides for the people who buy books. Alrighty then, so tune in next time. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for my next video next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.